But when you said Mikey, that reminded me that I haven't mentioned my trip to Chicago yet.
Oh, okay.
Which I was on the flight and I was made to feel the dumbest I've ever felt.
Okay.
Did I not tell you about this yet?
Oh, yeah. That's right.
So I get on the flight to Chicago and I sit next to this guy he just looks like an older dork.
Okay.
Bald guy, glasses, the dork ensemble. And I sit down, and very quickly I can tell he's gonna be a talker. He wants to talk to me, like he just perked up right away. And I sit down, I get settled, and he just looks at me and he goes, "Well, hi, I'm Michael." And I was like, "What's up, Michael? Nice to meet you, man." And he said, "I'm going to the Fermi Lab in Chicago."
Is he a little slow?
No, please. So wait, so you don't know this at all?
I think I know half of this, but again, I feel like you kind of kept teasing me with the story. And never.
He's certainly not slow. He's not slow by any stretch of the imagination.
When you did that voice and with your face for some reason,
well, my face usually makes you think it's gonna be a slow character.
Exactly. So okay.
It is the sadness of me telling stories. Like he's probably embodying a person.
Exactly. That's what was throwing me off. Okay, but smart Michael.
Smart Michael.
Smart Michael, dumb John.
Yeah,
And so Smart Michael's like, "I'm going to the Fermi Lab." And I said, "What's the Fermi Lab?" And he goes, "You don't know what the Fermi Lab is?"
You fucking.
And I went, "No, man, I don't know what that is." And he's like, "Well, it's named after the famous physicist." And I was like, "Fermi?" He goes, "Yes." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, I feel like you should have gotten by the fact that I didn't know what it was that I'm not going to have a good list of famous physicists in my head."
Yeah. Is Fermi a physicist that we should all know?
Okay,
good.
That is up to.
Have you heard of the Fermi paradox?
Yeah. Okay, I was gonna say it sounds familiar for sure.
That's him.
Yeah.
It's basically like, why have we not met aliens?
Okay.
You two are too smart to be working.
Yeah, Steve was like, "I'm gonna stay quiet. I can explain a lot about Fermi if you want." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool, man. Like, so what are you headed there for?" He's like, "Well, they're turning down their famous collider." And I was like, "Yeah, no, foolish of me to not know that." You're right. So I was like, "So what does a collider do?" And he's like, "Well, a collider uses atoms. It spins them around at incredible rates of speed and splits atoms and creates new matters." And I was like, "Oh, like an Oppenheimer." And he's like, "Exactly." And the more I kind of knew or kind of talked about his shit, he was getting jacked up. Yeah. So I was getting jacked up that he was getting jacked up. And we were screaming on the plane.
Well, can I say, by the time I had come around, which was you were the first and I was probably zone 7 or whatever, you guys were hyped up. Right? You guys were excited to be talking to each other.
I was getting him going, dude. He was so happy to talk about what he wanted to talk about. So I don't know, I imagine he doesn't talk about that a lot with people. So I was like, "All right, so a collider does what?" And he explains the collider to me. And I'm like, "And you know about this, how long have you worked in this industry?" "Well, I've worked in this industry since the 80s. And I was like, "Okay, and what do you do?" He's like, "Well, I'm an engineer, of course." And I was like, "Yeah, again, fucking idiot." Right? And I was like, "And so what do you do? What do you engineer right now?" Well, right now I engineer wires for submarines." And I was like, "Really? What's different about a wire in a submarine?" And he goes on to explain that wires in submarines have to be made of certain materials because the flames can't be toxic, because you can't run from a fire on a submarine. Oh. You have to be able to stay and fight it, and if the flames are toxic, they'll knock you out, blah, blah, blah. So it's a very special wire. And I was like, wow, how did you think to make these wires for submarines? And he's like, "Well, I used to make them for offshore oil drillers, mostly in Southeast Asia." And I was like, "Offshore oil drillers, like Deepwater Horizon." I only have movie references. And he's like, "Exactly like that." He gets so excited every time. "Exactly." And I was like, "So you worked on those for a long time?" He goes, I did. I have a very, very big background in gasoline." I'm kind of going Clemmer now. And,
I'm loving this one, by the way.
And I was like, "So the wires had to be the same on gasoline on those oil drillers?" And he's like, "That's right." And I was drinking a big water.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Now let me ask you a question. How much did that water cost?" And I went, Michael, I don't even know, man. Like, I don't know, $6, $8. Like, we're at an airport. It's a big water, I'd guess. And he goes, you don't even know. You don't even know how much it costs. And I was like, yeah, I don't know what to tell you. I just kind of was thirsty. I bought a water. Yeah. And he goes, but gasoline, they go crazy. Everyone goes crazy the second it gets over $4. And I was like, yeah, you're right about that. And he goes, but do you know what it takes to make gasoline? I said, Michael, I don't know what it takes. He goes, you have to geolocate it in the middle of an ocean. And then you have to slide a $1 billion tanker on top of it, $1 billion machine. Because then you drill the oil out. And then it costs another $1 billion to turn it into gasoline. Because it's a miracle. It's a miracle of science. It costs $4 to get gasoline. And I was like, yeah, you sold me. That's a hell of a fucking argument. And then there was like a bit of a pregnant pause. And he goes, so what are you heading to Chicago for? And I had to explain to him that I was on a 3-man trivia team because one of us is too dumb to do it alone. And he's like, okay. And then we kind of got quiet. And I realized that enough time had passed that like, the conversation was over and I can start fiddling with my TV now. Yeah. And I put on Jason Statham, a working man. And he must be like, so this is what people without brains do. Their entire life. They do dumb sports trivia and they watch Jason Statham movies. Dude, he went, and then we talked more throughout the flight and he was telling me about like, I asked him what he's been up to. I was like, you done anything cool lately, Michael? Yeah. And he goes, well, very out of character for me, but I went to a Star Wars performance at the New York Philharmonic Live Orchestra. And I was like, that sounds fucking awesome. Yeah. And he's like, it was incredible. And he would get so jacked up. He was the man. I fucking love Michael. I hope he had a good trip.